The Leading Edge Cricket Podcast. Oh, that's a marvellous shot, and that's brought up his half century. That's 50 for the Leading Edge Cricket Podcast.
Hey guys, welcome back to Leading Edge Cricket Podcast, episode number 50, and today we are full of milestones, a crushing cover drive to bring up the 50th podcast, a nudge off the hips to bring up the 200 subscribers on YouTube, and to celebrate we're going to look and bask in England's series win over India, world number one my eye, and myself and Rich are also going to break down our world 11s from the last 2 to 3 decades and who are our favourite cricketers of all time. So as always, I am Rob, one half of the Leading Edge Cricket Podcast, and today I'm joined by the co-host of the show, the man that used to be called the run-scoring, wicket-taking, ball-catching man. Rich, how are you?
I'm good, mate. I'm good.
I had to say that again. I needed to say it one more time. I really like the nickname.
Are you going to get it out of your system now, though? Because I feel like it needs to be out of your system. I don't feel like it's an appropriate nickname anymore. It's not really a nickname, though, really, is it? It's just a very long-winded intro.
If someone gave you that as a nickname, it would be long-winded. Wow. You know, you go to the bar and it's, hey, run-scoring, wicket-taking, ball-catching Rich, what would you like to drink, mate?
It's not as good as, what is it, Neon Dion Primetime Sanders?
That is a good nickname. That is a hell of a nickname. And hey, Rich, we're talking about milestones today, and it's been announced overnight, my time, daytime, your time. One of the biggest milestones that we're going to see, and one of the greatest players to ever lace the boots for England, Alistair Cook, is going to retire at the end of the series.
Absolutely, huge news. There's not been many more important pieces of news in the last 10 years when it comes to England. Simply, one of the greats, if not the greatest. Just look at the stats, look at what he's achieved, the games he's played, the centuries he's scored, the games he's won, the captain, the games he's played as captain. He's been just truly incredible, absolutely incredible. I mean, there's been moments that have peaked for him, obviously. He's had his tougher moments, but since his first game, hitting a century, on debut, was it in Nagpur against India? Yeah. He's just been incredible. He's, you get used to the seasons in England, Alistair Cook's at the top of the order scoring runs. It's been very strange, hasn't it, in the last year or so, or year or two, not seeing him kind of just consistently score runs. So massive monumental moment in the game for cricket in England.
Yeah, it is. He's an incredible talent, and I think he's probably done the right thing. You can look at him and go, hey, the guy's 33 years old. Alex Stewart played till he was near on 40. There's always room for batsmen to keep playing. But I think in his heart of hearts, he knows that he's probably not up to the standard required of an England opener. It's an incredible record, averages almost 45 over 160 test matches, and Mr. Consistent over that time in terms of always being on the field. But his stats over the last 3 years have dwindled. There's only 4 centuries over the last 37 test matches. There's 2 huge double hundreds in there. But that kind of buffers what has been a very, very average performance. If you take those runs out, the average is down to about 32 over the last 3 years. And I think he knows the time is right. It's ending on a high. If you remember Nasser Hussain, Rich, he finished on an absolute high against New Zealand at the drop of a hat going, this isn't going to get any better for me. He scored, I think it was 100 at Lords, didn't he? And hung up his boots and his bat then. Alistair Cook, I think he knows from a different point of view that his time is probably done. And any sort of extension to his stay is going to be detrimental to probably the England team.
Yeah, absolutely. How do you pick the time to go? It's such a difficult thing to do, isn't it? And I think he's got this about right. I think he's had an English summer, hasn't he? I think if we were going to maybe in Australia in the winter, or if it was going to India in the winter, he might have been hanging around for a little bit longer. But what is it? Sri Lanka coming up this winter, isn't it? I can't remember what it is after Sri Lanka, but that's from October through to the end of November. Not an easy tour. It's not a tour where he's going to be going in thinking he's going to score a hell of a lot of runs. So it probably is the right time for him. It would have been amazing for him to go out, scoring hundreds after hundreds. But there's still one more test in this series. He's retiring at the end of this series. He hasn't, done it with immediate effect. So we've still got a chance for 2 innings. It'll be interesting to see how he plays with all of this weight off his shoulders. I would expect him to come out and score some, have a couple of good knocks. Maybe he'll get the first half century by an opener in this series from either side. But yeah, what a bloke. What a man. He's going to go to the farm now, isn't he? He's going to be helping his missus on the farm with, milking cows or whatever he does down there. He's happy. He's a simple fella, and he started playing in 2006 for England as well, Rob. So 12 plus years really that he's been playing at the very, very top level. 160 test matches.
Wow.
I remember when Alex Stewart and others were getting the 100 cap, and I thought that was just the most ridiculously incredible achievement ever. But 160 tests for England. It's just outstanding. So, shall we just quickly just summarise his career, basically? 160 tests, 289 innings, 16 not outs, 12,254 runs at an average of 44.88, 32 centuries, 56 half centuries, high score of 294.
Yeah. So it's so good.
That's not bad.
And Rich, if you go home and away, the guy averages 43.49 with 14 centuries at home throughout the course of his career. And if you look away, the guy's got 17 centuries at an average of 45.6. And I think that is telling to how good a player that he has been. He has been able to do it all around the world. Yeah,
exactly. And me and Alistair Cook, we will always have Australia 2010-11. I could easily have run off with Alistair Cook if he'd have given me the eye on that series. 700 odd runs. Just incredible. And just give me that fifth day at Brisbane, 500 odd for one, wasn't it? Strauss 100, he got out, and then it was Trott and Cook back for the rest of the day, give or take a little spell at the end. 200 odd runs for Cookie, 234, I think it was, something daft like that. Just imperious. When he got going, the game looked so simple. He didn't have a complicated technique. It was prone to going wrong occasionally, but it was just a simple game, and it was just a run machine. It wasn't about scoring it in the most beautiful way possible, like an Ian Bell, for example, or a Lara or a Tendulkar even. But he did it just effortlessly. Yeah. He knew his strengths, didn't overcomplicate things, just scored runs. So massive. He's going to be hugely missed. But for the greater good, I think it has come at the right time. I think England are desperate to solidify that opening partnership. And, I don't know what they're going to do with Jennings for this fifth test. We won't go too far ahead, get ahead of ourselves just now. But this is the perfect chance to put two new openers in and don't have a senior Cook, a junior Jennings. Two openers, just bang two in. Maybe it's Rory Burns, maybe it's Nick Gubbins, maybe it's somebody else. I don't know. But this is a perfect chance. Get two in, start again.
Yeah, that's a great shout. One thing I want to highlight about Alistair Cook, and it's a failing of most England players, since I've been alive, it's, when we go to Asia and we have an horrific time. We can't play spin. We struggle with the low bounce. Just highlighting one of Alistair Cook's finest points of his career that will probably go overshadowed. But if you look at him playing in Asia, so this is Sri Lanka, Abu Dhabi, Pakistan, India, Bangladesh, the guy averages 53 in 28 test matches in India. Now, I would be hard-fetched to find another England player that averages over 50 on the subcontinent throughout the course of 28 test matches. Just a phenomenal record wherever you want to look at it.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And we could go off all day, couldn't we? And probably we will do at a later date. We'll actually probably have a good kind of long old pod breaking down Alistair Cook, looking at those records in different countries and just really kind of looking at him as the player, the legendary player. In the fullness of time, we will be looking back on a play like this, and just marvelling at the record. He's finishing the sixth overall, isn't he? Runs in Test cricket. I don't know if an England player will get close. Joe Root, perhaps. He's got a chance, hasn't he, to catch up? But it's going to be a hell of an achievement, for anybody getting anywhere near him. As for Cookie himself, Rob, it's probably worth just touching on a couple of things he said. He's basically said there is nothing left in the tank.
Yeah.
I've achieved more than I could have ever imagined and feel very privileged to have played for such a long time alongside some of the greats of the English game. Just a little aside, record 59 test matches as captain for England as well. Just throw that in there. Although it's a sad day, I can do so with a big smile on my face knowing I've given everything. The thought of not sharing the dressing room again with some of my teammates was the hardest part of the decision, but I know the timing is right.
Yeah.
So it's just, next, he's talking about as well, he knows it's the right time to give the next generation of young cricketers their turn to entertain us and feel the immense pride that comes with representing your country. Plaudits left, right and centre, Vaughan, Gooch, Alex Stewart, all the greats, you can line them all up. Nasser Hussain's the one I really like though. He has been England's greatest batsman. This is not Nasser Hussain, by the way. This is Nasser talking about Alistair Cook. Let's get that right. He's been England's greatest batsman. He is mentally the toughest cricketer I have ever seen. He's been a truly remarkable cricketer. It's that mental toughness, isn't it, that has allowed him to get to where he's been, and the fact that he's never sweated in his life.
He just keeps going. He's like the Duracell bunny of batting.
Yeah, and whatever the opposite of Duracell Bunny is for sweating, just never sweating.
Yeah, never sweats. Incredible career, and I feel like it would be sad to see him go out without scoring any runs in the whole series. So hopefully the 5th test is going to be Alistair Cook's test, and imagine a send-off century to finish off the summer. That would be quite something.
That would be perfect, mate. Absolutely perfect. It may even bring a little tear to the eye if he does do that.
Exactly. And it feels like the right time. Let's push Alistair Cook into what has been an incredible test series against India and an incredible 4th test match as well. Rich, how did Alistair Cook go in this 4th test match?
Did all right, didn't he? He did okay. I think before this, quite a few people out there going, I've got to change top order. Cook's not doing it. Jennings isn't doing it. So he probably has picked the right time to stop that conversation.
Yeah.
It's an England win, isn't it, though? We've got to talk about it. England win by 60 runs on the 4th day of the 4th test. A 3-1 series victory. I'm sure after the 5th test we will have spent some time properly breaking down this series. But for now, England win 3-1. They bounce back after Trent Bridge with a pretty convincing win. But I mean, only convincing when you actually look at the actual margin of victory. This test match was nip and tuck, close, unbelievably close all the way through. And even on the final day, maybe when we got to about 8 down, that was the point when you could suddenly kind of feeling the back of your chair a little bit and going, okay, we got this, we've got this. But probably until Rahani's wicket, there's always a chance, always an outside chance for India pulling it back. So, yeah, it was brilliant test match, and it's ended up at the moment being an absolutely brilliant series. So hopefully the 5th one, we can see India come back strong and take a fight all the way down to the line. Yeah,
it would be very nice. It's an incredible series. Both teams have really put it out there. Incredibly, I've got to look at it and go, the top 6 for both teams has been an utter disappointment. It really, really has been a disappointment. Top 5, especially, minus Kohli and probably minus Joss Butler as well. It's been a series for the bowlers, and it's not what I expected coming into this series, given the English conditions that we've seen leading up to the series. You guys have been having a heat wave, but it just seems that every time the ball's been in hand, it's been pretty overcast conditions, and you've got some beautiful exponents. This might be the best Indian seam attack that they've had ever, and you're getting Jimmy Anderson, the making of Sam Curran in the mix, Chris Wokes coming back in, Ben Stokes getting heaps of swing. It's been an incredible exponent of quality bowling.
Yeah, I think that's got to be the focus, hasn't it, really? I mean, the batting we can criticise, but both teams have struggled. There has been a lot of movement. It has been difficult to bat in the conditions. But it's a strange one, isn't it? It does seem that the more and more players, are becoming those multi-dimensional cricketers. It's more of a team of 2 or 3 all-rounders. It's not the traditional 6 batsmen, wicket-keeper, 4 bowlers anymore, is it?
Yeah.
With a couple of batters that maybe twirl a little bit of off-spin. They're different setups. We are in the T20 generation. We're in the IPL generation. These cricketers that do a little bit of both. Maybe when they're batting, that they're kind of not worrying as much because they're going to be in the game anyway when the ball gets in the hand to have a bowl. So there's so many things you could kind of put to the reasons for some of these batters not scoring enough runs. Obviously, apart from Virat Kohli, and he's been exceptional. But for this Test match, then we did kind of touch on it a bit. Let's just kind of quickly, if you want, just quickly run through what's been a like I say, pretty amazing game. First innings, England 246 all out. At the point of it being 4 for 36 and 5 for 69 and then 6 for 86, I think we thought India's won this test match. It's going to be 2 all. It's all to play for in the 5th test. But somehow, Sam Curran, I was going to say a test best. He's only played a few tests, hasn't he? But, his batting is on the up every game. 78 for him before Ashwin dismissed him. He was the man, along with Moeen Ali and then Stuart Broad, that got England to a respectable 246. Bumrah, 3 for 46, 2 for 26 for Sharma, 2 for 51 for Shami, and Ashwin 2 for 40, 1 for Pandya as well. Spread it around. But, India, you've got to be very happy with their display in the first innings. England at that point, they've probably got it done okay, but you're still thinking that's an under-par score. But my God, you were happy with where, considering where we were at 6 for 86.
Yep. It's a really important trait of a team to be able to score runs down the order. I think I touched on it a couple of podcasts ago, just how successful Australia have been based on being able to score runs down the order, having come in scoring runs, Johnson, Stark, all of them chipping in, scoring runs. And other than the bowling, One of the reasons this England team has won this series is the lower order. You know, Sam Curran has been outstanding. Chris Woakes outstanding. Adil Rashid, chocolate fire guard. But Brody chipping in with a few runs. Josh Butler doing superbly. It's a constant thing in this England team at the moment that we're getting out of trouble by a terrible top six and everyone else chipping in down the order. But Sam Curran has been a revelation down the order and really solidified himself. And I can't believe he got dropped, but he solidified himself as a genuine all-rounder in this England team. And talk about selection policies all we like and how inconsistent this England selection policy is and we've no idea what they're going to do. But they've got the nail on the head with bringing Moeen Ali in, a man in form scoring a double century and a man taking wickets as well. And perfect time to bring him in.
Yeah, exactly. We spoke about Moeen Ali, didn't we, before? You know, he was dropped for a damn good reason, and he accepts that. But he's gone away, and he's also said it's actually going to be brilliant for him. He probably needed the break from Test cricket, but he's missed it, and he wanted to get back into it. But he has gone away and performed. You know, the recency, 200, double hundred, and about eight wickets in the game. So he's been, man in form. He's got his confidence back. He's got his technique all clicking again. It was a time for him to come back in, and he's been brilliant. I think the way forward for England, bugger it, just play 11 all-rounders. You know, you may as well, aren't you? Sam Curran, Ali at 3, Sam Curran at 4. Bugger it, yeah, don't worry about it. And Sam Curran, he's got stones, hasn't he? Proper onions.
Yeah.
Whatever you want to say. He's just, what a kid. I mean, when we first started this podcast, this is episode 50, we're going to keep referring to that, I'm sure. But very, very early on, we were saying this man, Sam Curran, he's going to be playing for England in all three formats at some point. We didn't realise it'd be this soon in the Test side. We thought it might be the one-day stuff or the 2020 where we saw him come through first. But my God, our predictions, although speeded up, have been bang on there for that man. And I'm delighted that he's come through. Taking us on to the second innings then, Rob. Again, India top order, 2 for 50, 23 and 19 for the two openers, Darwin and Rahul. Didn't really do it. But Pujara, he was the man then. He knuckled down, didn't he? 132 not out, battered through the innings. Kohli was gone on 40. Massive wicket for Sam Curran. His only wicket in that innings, but a massive, massive one at that. And then the middle order showed absolutely nothing, and I think that's what gave England confidence going into the fourth innings. That once you got through the top 3 or 4, the gritty resistance of Pujara, the class of Kohli, and and again Rahane, a little bit of both there from him. Once you got through those 3 boys, it was almost shops open, wasn't it?
Yeah.
So England got confidence from that second innings. 3 for 63 for Brody, wicketless for Jimmy A. And Rashid, Rashid did have a bowl. Well done, Adil. Getting your subs worth it today. Moeen Ali, 5 for 63 though. He absolutely went for him like a knife through butter, wasn't it? A hot knife through butter, and he was on a hat trick as well at one point. But he ripped away that middle and late order to set it really up, didn't it? Give England, give India just a slight lead. But again, England, they batted pretty well. Cook and Jennings were frustrating. Cook only got 12, Jennings 36. Jennings, was it on the stroke of lunch? Or was it? I'm sure it was just on the stroke of a break anyway. I'm pretty sure it was lunch. He got himself out. 87 balls, over 2 hours, and he throws it away. It's just so frustrating. I think he's got 2 40s in this series and a 30. Cook hasn't got so higher than 29. But what... Keaton Jennings, is this him? Is this him done, or do they give him one more test?
I really don't know, mate. I would like them to call it quits. I honestly would. I mean, the guy dug in as hard as he could. He batted for almost 32 overs and scored 36 runs. It's a failure of a series. It's a failure of 2018. He failed against Pakistan. He's failed in 4 test matches against India. The question is, how much cricket do you give him? The guy scored 130 runs in 7 innings at an average of 18. It's how much cricket do you give someone before you genuinely just call it quits and go, right, he failed first time round, he's failed second time round. It's 11 test matches, 20 innings that he's had, and he's passed 50 twice. 20 innings.
Yeah. I mean, this series, he's only had 140. So, so 42, 8, 11, 20, 13, none, 36. I think it's more frustrating that he has had a couple of starts in there.
Yeah.
So, but by the by, isn't it? I mean, Moeen Ali, he went up to number 3 in England's second innings. Joe Root, obviously is going to be back at number 4. He's desperate to get back there. Root, he got 48 before he was run out. He holds himself a little bit responsible for that, and so he should. But I think Stokes has probably sold him a little bit short there. So that's Root's second run out of the series.
Yeah.
Listening to Root talk, he feels like he's getting into some form. He's feeling pretty good, but he's not quite doing it. But as a few people were saying, you don't have to worry about your 50 to 100 conversion rate if you don't get 50. So Joe Root's not daft.
Yeah, no, hell of a player, Joe Root. Just a terrible conversion rate. He can always get himself in, but I do feel like he gets himself stuck once he's in. It's like you know how you watch real class batsmen and they go through the gears? I feel like Joe Root's missing a couple of gears and he just can't get past those 60s and 70s and get himself on, mate. He's a great cricketer. He's just got a lot to learn. It's not a like for like, but if you remember looking back at Graham Thorpe's career, and Graham Thorpe was an incredible international cricketer for England in that era, he had a huge period of his career where he only had 2 centuries to his name, even though he played heaps of test matches. He went away, he came back, and he learned how to take his innings to the next point. And Joe Root's just missing that little bit of what Graham Thorpe learnt towards the back part of his career.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting. I mean, we've got a series win under his belt now, hasn't he? There was signs in the last test that Root, the captain, is starting to establish himself a little bit more. There was something that was picked out, really, kind of basically turning down Stuart Broad's request for players moving, and there was a little bit of back and forth, and showed that he's actually starting to step up. I wonder if, he feels like he's in good form. The captain, I wonder if he just feels like maybe he's just starting to establish himself as captain.
Yeah.
And it's, his batting has obviously, been suffered as a result of his captaincy, let's say. The opposite of Cook. In fact, his Cook's record seemed to improve, didn't it, when he became captain to begin with. So we shall see if Root can get himself to 4, if he can kind of be happier with where he is. As sad as it sounds, if Cook leaves, that's another senior player that's on the way out, isn't it? A captain that's in the same team, an ex-captain, a shadow over Joe Root a little bit. So maybe this becomes Root's team a little bit more when Cook actually does finally hang up the batting glove. So, again, it's something we're going to have to see, but, we're a little bit closer to this becoming Joe Root's team. Johnny Bairstow, first baller, second time in 2 test matches. He's got cleaned up first ball. This time, Mohammed Shami, was he sulking? There's a few question marks over his technique at the minute. He's batting very much, opening up that offside, isn't he? And there's a few people just making the same point that doesn't look like a recipe for success.
Yeah. I was quite surprised that there were calls in the media going, he's sulking because he's not keeping. The guy's got a broken digit. This is the way Johnny Bairstow plays. He was the same when he was in New Zealand. He goes hard at the ball and tries to play a shot every single time the ball's pitched up. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. And there's been calls going, Johnny Bairstow's a number 7 at best. I think it was Michael Vaughan or Boycott. One of the two came out and said that. I think he's a bit better than a 7, but he's not. I'm pushed to see him as a number 5. I see him as a number 6, but that's the problem this England team have got, is we've got a whole bunch of 6, 7s and 8s floating around.
Yeah, exactly. That's Bairstow, Stokes, Butler, isn't it? How you could do with just putting them all into one spot. But I've no idea how you get past that problem. People talking about Bairstow being a short-term solution as opener because he does it in the one-day team. No, not for me.
Nah.
Someone else, I can't remember who it was, talking about Bairstow needs to really kind of put himself up there and get up to number 3. Nah, don't see that either. It doesn't suit him. I don't think it does. No. So we'll see what Johnny Bairstow. He wasn't sulking though. He was throwing himself like a madman in the outfield. So he did his job. But he probably thought you could perceive he was sulking because he wasn't stood behind the stumps shouting every ball. But he couldn't. He was on the boundary because he's not. He's just such a good fielder, isn't he? And you don't want him in a catching position when he's got a kind of a cracked kind of glass digit, do you? So,
yeah, exactly.
So, yeah, let's not worry about that. So we'll see how Bairstow settles down. I'm sure, once this lineup gets tweaked a little bit, maybe not this next test, but when over the winter, hopefully this lineup starts settling down and we'll see. Stokes coming, he got himself a nice patient 30, 110 balls. This has been a new side for Ben Stokes in the last couple of matches. And Josh Butler, 69 off 122. Brilliant knock again. 2 test matches. Start of this series, I questioned his selection. More so on the fact that where it came from and the fact that the lack of red ball cricket and certainly lack of counter. But he has started to show that why they wanted to get him in. He's such a good player. And Sam Curran, again, 46, he batted through with Rashid and Broad, and he was the last man out. run out, sadly, obviously wanting to get himself to a 50, but also wanted to just nudge England up to a 250 odd lead. Didn't quite get there. India mopped things up pretty well. It was during the first ball the fourth day. And then so it was a big ask for India, wasn't it? 244 they needed to win. And England made just an incredible start. With getting the wickets. KL Rahul was gone to the third over for four on the board, and Pujara, that was massive. Pujara going to make it 17 for 2, and then Shikhar Dhawan 22 for 3. England cruising, 8.3 overs in. Anderson 2 wickets and 1 for Broad. It looked at that point England were in the box seat, but Virat Kohli was at the crease rub.
Yeah, it was perfectly set. Great start from England. Everything that you want to see out of Brody and Anderson picking up the top 3. I think the Pujara wicket was critical because it put the pressure onto Rahane to really nail down. But then Virat Kohli and Rahane started batting superbly. And honestly, I wake up intermittently in the night with the baby and I watch for a bit and then go back to sleep and I wake up. When I woke up, Kohli and Rahane were set on about 25 each and the score was about 90 for 3 and I was like, oh, if only I had the balls to stay up all night and watch this.
Yeah, at that point it was stunning. It really was. And we've got to just quickly mention it. I know you probably didn't see it, Rob, but Virat Kohli, there was a huge, huge decision. We said that after 8.5 overs were 3 down. Well, after 16.5 overs, there was a massive LBW appeal. It was reviewed. England reviewed it. It looked to a lot of people that the bat had hit his pad. Now, from the third umpire's view, it looked like the ball maybe have just taken just the finest of nicks of the bat. But Snicko didn't quite look right, or whatever it's called these days. Yep. It didn't quite look right with where the spikes were going. But I thought he rushed it. I thought the third umpire rushed it, and I don't think he even realised there was a bat on pad. Or at least he didn't really take into account. He didn't say it out loud when he was coming to the decision. They gave it not out. You see another angle, a slightly off-centre angle, and it looked like there was daylight between bat and ball. So that, and the ball would, at the important point, the ball would have gone on to hit the stump. So that was a massive decision. I think Kohli was on 10 at that point when Moeen Ali trapped him in front. But he kept going. He got himself to 58, but Ali did get him eventually. And that was just huge. Absolutely huge. Rahane, he hung around for quite some time. He got 51. But once we got Kohli, we started opening things up. Pandya didn't last too long. He went for 7. Stokes got into him. Rishabh Pant batted aggressively instead of the 29-ball duck. He got himself going, hitting the ropes 3 times at a 2 4s and a 6. Ashwin is again, he batted pretty aggressively as well, hit a 6 as well. But we just kept picking up wickets, didn't we? And then it got down into Sharma and Shami. You knew it wasn't going to take too long. I think Rahane was the last man out. No, Ashwin was the right man out. Sorry, I'm talking absolute rubbish. 184 all out. JJ Bumrah, hat tip to him. I thought he looked the worst number 11 I've ever seen in world cricket. But he lasted a little bit again. 28 minutes, 8 balls. And he's done all right in this test. He's helped him along. Moeen Ali, though, 4 for 71, gives himself 10 for the game. A couple of wickets for Anderson, 1 for Broad, 2 for Stokes, 1 for Curran. And Adil Rashid completely out-bowled. 7 overs, none for 21 compared to Moeen Ali's 4 for 71 off 26. Adil Rashid, I've got nothing against the fella, but it just, for all the furore at the start of the series bringing him in, he's done absolutely nothing. Well, just next to nothing in this series.
Yeah. Superb by England. Really, really good. Really, really clinical. Got stuck in when times got hard with Rahane and Virat Kohli. Kohli, the king of the reviews. So there was 2 reviews with Kohli. Kohli reviewed when he was actually given out. He was off the glove, definitely out. And then there was a couple of random reviews, and it came down. Ashwin got out for 25 LBW to Curran. Now this was actually missing the stumps.
Oh, it was, yes, but
they ran out of reviews, mate.
Yes, I remember, and it was missing by decent distance, wasn't it? That's a crazy thing with umpires these days. You very rarely see a decision where it's a howler, and that's what the review system's there to kind of overcome, isn't it? Usually, and if they say not out, the ball might just be, and the team reviews it, it's probably just missing by a little bit, or you know what I'm trying to get at. Yes. It might be clipping, but to miss the stumps and to be given out by such a distance, that was very uncharacteristic by the kind of the quality of umpiring these days.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's a really good point, that one is.
Yeah. It was a telling point, but this England team were on top. Moeen Ali, one of the best calls up to an England team that there's been in a very, very long time. It just comes in at the perfect time, hitting huge form in first-class cricket. And if you remember the tour of Australia, where he was so bad, he was carrying an injury that whole time. And it doesn't seem like a lot, but on his spinning finger, he had a bad finger. That meant that he wasn't extracting the same amount of spin and overspin and drift and all those things you associate with a spinner than what he normally was. I remember looking at some of the stats of the spin that he was getting, and it was way down. Guy's gone away, got his head straight, got his finger, his digit back in order, and look at it.
Straight.
This is everything that England loved about Moeen Ali for 45 test matches. This Moeen Ali, the man that can take wickets. Sure, he averaged near on 40 with the ball, but you could get away with it with the talent that he had and just being able to control it. And he really had, it seemed to me, he had better control of what he was doing. There was very rarely a bad ball where someone could try and get on top of him.
Yeah, and he looked threatening. He looked threatening all the time. He was attacking the rough, wasn't he? He was bringing both sides of both edges of the bat into play. Again, I don't want to have a go at Adil Rashid, but he had a ball and he didn't look threatening at all. This guy's a leg spinner. He should be turning it miles, shouldn't he? He should be doing all sorts of everything.
Yeah.
But he didn't look threatening at all, and that's why Moeen Ali got all the overs. Obviously, Root's got confidence in him. With how little Adil Rashid has played in this series, I find it odd that Root was kind of seemingly one of the people that wanted him in the team so much. We've got one test to go. Do England remain a little bit stubborn? Do they stick with Adil Rashid? In the fifth test at the Oval, or do they let him drop out, go with a one spinner in Moeen Ali, and bring in somebody who we might be thinking of for the future for England? Jamie Porter was in the squads, wasn't he, for the first three tests, and he was an omission for this one. Is Woakes going to be fit? Bring one of those blokes in if you need to. This is the opportunity. It's a dead rubber. I know England won't want to lose this game. Alistair Cook's last test, I want to go out on the high, but this is an opportunity now. And there's no point in the world, if you're going to play Moeen Ali again, which obviously you are, to play Rashid. So I think that's definitely one change they can look to. But yeah, brilliant from England. India played well. Virat Kohli's up to 544 runs with 2 innings remaining. So it wouldn't surprise you at all if he has a third game of 200 runs in the test probably, and gets up to that 750 point that we had a prediction of, didn't we? Well, not me and you, but somebody else did.
Rivlud said 750. Now, if we break down some of the stats at the 4 test match mark, mate. So Kohli, head and shoulders above anyone else that's ever stepped on the field this series. Just an incredible series. The rest of the Indian team, and this is where they're going to see the downfall. Pujara, very good. 241 runs from his 3 test matches. 100, a 50, averaging 48. But then the drop-off is quite substantial. So Rahane, he's played every match, batted twice in every match, averaging 27. Not good enough. Hardik Pandya, averaging 23. Not good enough. Dhawan, averaging 26. And then you got KL Rahul, played every single game, averaging 14. 14.
Yeah, he catches and slip well, though.
Yeah, he does. He does, but that doesn't go on your average. Now, I think India need to really look at what changes they make for this last test. Get PP Shaw in, get some of the young guys in, give them some experience.
Why not? Bang him in, exactly. This is a perfect chance. He's played a bit of cricket over in England, hasn't he, with the India A. This is a perfect opportunity. The series is over. Yes, India will want to win. Yes, England will still want to win. There is always that. But give some of these blokes a chance. Give some of these guys that have been turning up, bowling in the nets, batting in the nets, carrying some drinks. Give them an opportunity. It's not just a free cap. They've got to have earned it, but get them in. We've been saying it all along for India. Too many really, really good young players to not start slowly dripping them in. KL Rahul, Murali Vijay, Shikhar Dhawan, none of them have really set the world alight as opening batsmen for India. None of them, for me, have shown that they deserve to necessarily be the absolute, guaranteed future opening the top of the order. So get one of these young fellas in. You never know what he might do. He might surprise me. He might do an Alistair Cook on last. Oh, wouldn't that be lovely? Alistair Cook's last ever test. Let's see a young opening batsman. He's 18, is he? PP Shaw. Alistair Cook was 21 on debut when he scored 100 in India. Let's see an Indian batsman on debut, a young fella, score 100 on debut in England. I think that'd be a lovely sort of I don't know, I just think it'd be a nice little touch, but a nice bookend to Alistair Cook's career.
Yeah, it definitely would. And talking of that England team, Rich, I'm going to do exactly the same. You've got Josh Buttler, who's having a superb series, coming back in, reintegration into the team, 260 runs at 37. Sam Curran, averaging 50, 250 runs from 3 tests. Incredible. Third highest scorer in the series. And then you've got the England drop-off. So these are the things that aren't good about England's top order. Johnny Bairstow played every game, averaging 30. Joe Root played every game, averaging 27. Ben Stokes played 3 games, averaging 25. However, I quite like his mental determination that's going on. Keaton Jennings played every game, averaging 18. Alistair Cook, he'll play the last game, but averaging 15. Ollie Pope played 2 games, averaging 18. And if you want to go all the way down, you've got David Milan averaging 14 after 1 game. So there's huge question marks over this England team. Now, what do you do? What do you do? You've got 1 test match left. You've got the opportunity to rest players, as we've previously spoken about. But if it's Alistair Cook's last game, and he's good mates with Brody and Anderson, if I'm Brody and Anderson, I am doing everything possible to tell the selectors that I want to play in this game.
Yeah, like I say, I think one spot is up for grabs, and I don't, the Adil Rashid spot. I think that's one change you can make quite easily. Where you make the next change, I don't know. Jennings is the obvious one. Is this the turn? Okay, we've got 2 openers in mind, because that's really what we need to be looking for in England. And we need a number 3 as well, if we're being honest.
Yeah.
I don't know exactly how we work this lineup, but, forget about the middle order and all these players that play at 6 for a second. There isn't really anyone in that team who's batting at number 3 who should be. I don't want Bairstow there, I don't want Buttler there, and I don't want Moeen Ali there. So we need 2 openers going forward, and we need a number 3. So you've got, obviously, Rory Burns, by the sound of it, 5 consecutive seasons of 1,000 runs. He's highest run scorer in Division 1 cricket at the moment. Of the second opener, I'm not 100% sure. Nick Gummins has had his injury issues. He's not really had a chance to score the weight of runs that you'd like to see coming in. He's a young fella. He's got a lot about him. Joe Clark at Worcester. There's an argument potentially for him. I think he bats 3 or 4 at Worcester anyway. Yeah. So there's some players out there. Do they make a change? I think if they do anything, maybe Rory Burns. I don't know. I don't know. They need a number 3, unless, now this is one argument which I've heard from, I think it was Jonathan Agnew, who makes a lot of sense a lot of the time. We're about to go to Sri Lanka. Moeen Ali would not be the worst number 3 in the world Sri Lanka on turning pitches. The seamers tend to only bowl probably the first 10 maybe overs of the innings. Once that new ball's gone, get the spinners on, and you very rarely see the seamers come on. You'll probably only need your two opening bowlers plus your Stokes as your all-rounder, and then it's a couple of spinners, maybe Root as your third spinner almost, isn't it? So maybe Moeen Ali could play that game for this because he's going to be there for the winter, and then up with the 2 openers, the 2 new openers. But the number 3 will be solved for this first half of the winter, and then we'll see where we are after that. I think it's West Indies, isn't it? Into the new year, into February, March time.
Yeah, I'm really unsure. I like the idea of Moeen Ali at 3, maybe 4 the subcontinent, but I do sometimes struggle with kind of horses for courses batting positions. I don't think it's got the best history in the world. To me, Burns has got to come in. The guy can't do any more than what he's done to earn an England call-up. Now, I've heard questions around his technique. Well, cricket isn't a 100% technique game. Virat Kohli doesn't have the most beautiful technique. He's got a wonderful technique, but there's been guys who's had better techniques. There's Johnny Bairstow, averages 45 in Test cricket. Not the best technique in the world. Kevin Peterson, average 50. Not the best technique. Everyone plays the game differently. Bloody look at Shivnarine Chanderpaul. Would you look at him in the English county setup and go, he's going to go and score 10,000 international runs or whatever it was? No. So give Rory Burns a go. I mean, what's the worst that happens? He goes and fails, but the guy has earned every single piece of it. I wouldn't be surprised. I don't know. Part of me thinks James Vince is going to keep his place in the team and potentially may come in and bat at 3 for England, but I cringe at myself saying that.
They obviously like him. We've got a setup at the minute that they clearly have their favourites. The previous selection didn't fancy this Rory Burns. I'm not sure if this selection does. Obviously, Keaton Jennings was given a second opportunity, wasn't he, ahead of him? I didn't realise what a good record Burns had had.
Yeah.
He's consistently done it. It doesn't matter what his technique is. Marcus Trescothick wasn't a perfect opener's technique, but he was awesome. If we had him for another 5 or 6 years, what a player. We'd be talking about him in a slightly different way as well, because the weight of runs he would have scored. Just get him in. Get him in. We've tried everybody else, for crying out loud, and this lad has deserved it. He's probably got, if you lined up every opener that we've tried over the last 2 or 3 years, I wouldn't be surprised if Rory Burns has probably got the best record out of all of them.
Oh, he does?
Yeah, right, cool. I was just pulling it out of thin air, so no science behind it whatsoever, so I'm glad to be able to back that up.
He does. He's passed 1,000 runs, mate. He's passed 1,000 runs in the last 4 county championship seasons, and this year he's got 960 in 10 games. The guy's crying out for selection. I don't think Brodie and Anderson will drop out with it being Cook's last test match. So it wouldn't surprise me if you don't see a change from the bowling unit. Maybe something with Adil Rashid, but it's not like we need to bring in another seamer unless Ben Stokes is definitely not fit to bowl. He bowled more than I expected in the 4th test. If he isn't fit to bowl, it wouldn't surprise me if you saw Jamie Porter come into the lineup.
Yeah, sit him. We've already. This is a perfect opportunity to bring in somebody at number 3 and bump people down a little bit. If Ben Stokes isn't 100% fit, love him, but sit him. Just sit him. I think he should have sat at Trent Bridge as well as he did play in that game. I think he should have sat because of all the nonsense that had been going on with that court case. I think maybe England needs to take these decisions a little bit more. Make the decision. We're going to just leave you out for this test. We're going to sit you out on this one, especially when it comes to the all-rounders, the ones that, steaming in with a ball and, they've got a responsibility with a bat. Sometimes it might not be the worst thing in the world to just let them sit a test every so often.
Yeah. Knocking England India on head. We've got the 5th test match coming up. We've got selection issues that we potentially need to talk about again when the squads get announced. It wouldn't surprise me if there's a left field choice. But one of the things we want to do out today, and it's to go through what our favourite 11 is over the last 30-odd years that we've been watching cricket. Now, this isn't a list that gives you, oh my God, they said this person belongs in the World 11. That is not this list. This is purely our favourite 11. And it could be from anything. It could be from how they play the game, how they played one innings, a certain thing that draws you towards a player. I've got guys in the list that haven't got that many test match runs, but they are a favourite of mine, and I've got fond memories of watching them play cricket. So, quite excited about this, Rich, and quite interesting to see who's going to be in your team, because I think we've got different takes on the game of cricket at times.
I think we have. I think one thing we can guarantee straight from the off is that you've got Kevin Peterson, and he's nowhere near my team.
Now as if I'm bringing Kevin Peterson.
The most divisive bloke ever to have played the game. Jason Gallion had it right, didn't he? Launching his kit off the balcony at Trent Bridge, I reckon. But I think you're right, mate. I think we probably do have. And we're kind of similar here, aren't we? There's a little bit of a difference of a few years maybe. But then saying that, with the team I've selected, it's not really touching on that really early years of me being a fan. So, yeah, I mean, the way I've looked at it, these are definitely my favourite players, the players that I've been just loved watching. There might be some in this that I didn't really like until I watched them in a live game or whatever it might be. Definitely not trying to say that this is the best team ever, but I tell you what, it's pretty good.
Yeah,
I back them.
I'm going to go out there and say mine is not the best team ever. There's a few on the list. Oh no, it's a decent team. Sorry, I'm looking at it. I'm going, that's a decent team, but there are better players that probably could have gone on this list. As I'm saying, if I was picking a World 11. Not all of these guys would be on the list. They are purely my favourite players for one reason or another. So, Rich, let's start it off. Who are your opening pair?
Well, this was a toughie. When I grew up, I'll get to the point, but when I was growing up, Michael Atherton was an absolute hero. I loved watching him bat. As time's gone on, he's just been surpassed. The man that's just retired today, Alistair Cook, he's number 1. He's taking first ball. He's there. He's locked in. I mentioned another lad earlier, Marcus Trescothick. Loved Trescothick as a player. Absolutely loved him. But one player that I wasn't a big fan of initially, but then when I saw him first time I went to Australia, I just was so impressed with him. It was the year that England got beat 5-0 over there, which, I know. Which year was that? But Matthew Hayden, he was awesome. Running between the wickets, everything about his game, shots, power, just the technique, the touch, he was awesome. So I've got Alistair Cook, Matty Hayden. They're my openers.
Excellent. Well, I've got one that you've just mentioned. So I've got Michael Atherton in my opening pair. And Atherton personified 90s cricket for England. Yes, there were some horrendous collapses, worse than what we're seeing these days. Well, probably on par. But Atherton was the glue at the top of the order. I loved his Graham Nichols bat. Honestly, I always wanted the blue Graham Nichols bat for years and never got one. And there was the contest against Australia, the contest against South Africa. He was the man, mentally strong at the top, who could bat all day. So he's number one. Number two for me is Pakistan opener Saeed Anwar. And I have no idea where this came from, other than I absolutely love watching Saeed Anwar play cricket during the 90s and early 2000s. Absolutely love the guy. Incredible record. Average 45. He got 194 in a one-day international. For whatever reason, you just have moments growing up that you watch people and you're like, wow, this is the guy. I'd go in the back garden and I'd try and bat left-handed so I could try and be Saeed Anwar. And when I was right-handed, I'd try and be Michael Atherton. So these are the two that make the top of the order for me.
Yeah, sounds good to me. Sounds good. It's nice to have those ones that are a little bit out of, out of left field. And it depends what summer it was when you were, when you absolutely loved a test series, maybe when you were growing up, isn't it? And, one of those Pakistan teams, they had some solid players around that time, didn't they? And there will be a Pakistan player popping up in my team a little bit later on. And with this team in mind, I'll be honest with you, that I was probably framing it mostly as a test side. But I reckon they'd definitely be able to pump a few teams on a 50 over. But yeah, so that's we've got our openers then. Atherton and Anwar for you. Atherton was closely behind my two of Alistair, Cook and Hayden. Yeah. Who's going next? Is it me or you?
I think we should probably do 3 and 4, then 5 and 6. So my 3 and 4. I'm still looking at my team, trying to work out where everyone's going to bat in the batting line.
Flexibility.
My number 3 is going to be Brian Lara.
I don't think anyone can argue with that one.
No, just one of the most natural strikers of a cricket ball you're ever going to see. You bowl the ball on a spot and it hit to boundaries in 4 different directions. And just a wonderful, wonderful cricketer. And, I had Caribbean Calypso VHSs back in the day. Watching Ambrose and Walsh and watching Brian Lara score runs. And he's just an incredible player. And then the other guy that's going to bat, and I've got him in at 4. Now, I've got a lot of interchangeability, that's a new word, in this top 6. Number 4, I'm going with Jaya Wardner. Just for Mr. Consistency, love his technique. Again, it's the mental attributes that's credited to him and his ability to bat time, and just a wonderful technique to watch.
Yeah, give us your 5 as well, because I think 3, 4, and 5 is your middle order, isn't it? So give us your 5 as well.
Kevin Peterson.
Oh, Jesus! No, I appreciate the talent of the man. I just don't like the bloke.
Yeah, that's fair enough. To me, he was so talented, so good, and so much better than 90% of cricketers that's ever taken the field. Just head and shoulders. He could just have his moments where he was an absolute numpty. But when he was on board and firing, especially when he first joined that England team where he was really clawing his way to try and be an international cricketer, I loved that fight in him. I loved it. And he was just a talent. Just incredible to watch. Stop
talking about Peterson, for crying out loud. We've spoke about him enough. Anyway, moving across. Right, number 3. Can't disagree with you. Brian Lara, it has to be.
Yep.
Only cricketer I've ever had on my wall, Brian Lara.
Wow.
After he scored 501 for Warwickshire, wasn't it, in county cricket, there was a back page of a sport, of a newspaper, and I just kind of, ripped it out, stuck it on the wall. Just absolute legend of a player. Number 4 and number 5. Now, again, I'm the same as you. It's interchangeable. You could go either way. But number 4, I'm going Stephen Fleming, New Zealand and Nottinghamshire. And I'm adding the Notts because I loved him when he played at Notts as well. He created a hell of a side at Notts. And he was just such a beautiful player. Great slip catcher as well. In the way England have been playing recently, you need someone to catch him. Stephen Fleming's in there for number 4. Great captain as well if you need him to captain. And then, yes, number 5, Jaya Wardner. Again, the same as you, mate. He's probably one of my favourite cricketers of all time. Always appreciated him, but it wasn't until I went to Sri Lanka and watched a few test matches over there and saw him stroke the ball around and make it look effortless and score 100 in Sri Lanka that I really did kind of just lock in on this guy. So, yeah, that's my 3, 4 and 5. Lara, Fleming, Jaya Wardner.
Very nice, very nice. Solid. I think we've got 2 solid teams going on at the moment.
Oh,
I wouldn't fancy my chances with the ball. Go on, mate. Who's your number 6? So number 6, I'm just going to put it out there. Number 6 is an all-rounder for me.
Is it? I've done it a slightly different way. Well, he's an all-rounder, but he's a wicket-keeper.
Yep.
And for me, it was a toss-up. Gilchrist gets an honourable mention. And if I'm looking at the gloves, I've got to give Chris Reed an honourable mention as well. But the way I'm looking at this team, I want this guy in there. Just from the first minute I laid eyes on him to the last time I've seen him play, AB de Villiers, are just stunning player. And again, this is our favourite players of all time. It's not necessarily the best, but I reckon AB de Villiers is in a conversation anyway for that.
Yeah, no, that's a great choice. You know what? I had him on my list on the bus on the way in this morning, and I scratched him. I scratched him out of the team.
Oh, he's not happy.
I agree. If you're looking at a best 11 of all time, I don't think you can look far past Gilchrist. For me, at number 6, I've gone with a guy who I personally think is the best all-round cricketer to ever play the game. Ever. He caught a couple of hundred catches at slips, over 300 test wickets, about 12,000 runs. And when I coached cricket with kids, I always said, watch this man play, watch his balance, watch his head. Jack Callis at number 6. Yeah,
it's a solid choice. I don't know what it was. I think it was probably just his big fat head or something that just he was just a meathead, wasn't he? There was just something about him. I loved him as a player, loved him, ability-wise, but he was just not one of those characters that really kind of grabbed my attention. But yeah, absolutely quality. And I think you're right. I think he's in that conversation. Certainly of the generation we're talking about, probably the best all-rounder. There'll be a few others a little bit older than us arguing who's the best all-rounder when you get the Bothams and, Sobers and all the rest of it. Viv Richards, sorry. I'm sure people will argue those, but we just weren't lucky enough to see them, was we? We didn't grow up with those guys, so we can't say it. So yeah, that's solid, mate. What I just want to say as well while I'm going through this, my middle order that missed out, I narrowed down Nasser Hussain. I love Nasser Hussain. I think I hold him responsible for the turnaround of England being an embarrassment to being a difficult team. Responsible as captain for some great wins overseas as well. Carl Hooper I used to love as well. Just got to give him a little mention. Yeah. And Sachin Tendulkar, please. Yeah. People, I know what a legend he was. He was so close to being in my between 3 and 6. Or 3 and 5, but he just missed out. But I was lucky enough to see him score some runs in India as well, and I that's one of my happiest moments as being a cricket fan, of being able to see Tendulkar score runs in India and Jai Warner in Sri Lanka. So I've not forgot him. Don't worry, people. But he just didn't quite make it.
No, that's fair enough. I made 2 lists. One was my best 11, best players, and I had Tendulkar and I had Ponting in that list. Now, Tendulkar didn't quite make the cut for my favourite 11, and Ricky Ponting definitely did not make my favourite 11.
Well, it depends. If it was when he was chucking his toys out the pram at Trent Bridge in 2005, then that moment he was one of my favourite cricketers of all time.
Oh, brilliant. Who's your number 7, Rich?
Number 7, it's my second Kiwi, Chris Cairns. Again, it's a little bit of the Notts thing, but he was one of the... Chris Cairns is a son of a cricketer. Hit the ball long and big, and a great bowler as well. He just developed. He got better with age, it seemed, as well. But he was another guy that came and was an overseas pro at Nottinghamshire for quite some time. And certainly in my formative years, he was playing at Trent Bridge as well. So he was someone I really, really liked. There will be bigger names. Like you say, Jack Callis is a much better cricketer, I'm sure we'll all agree. But loved Cairns. Great, that dynamism coming in at number 7, smacking the ball everywhere. Yeah, he's my man.
He was a cracking player. He's fallen on hard times in recent years after match fixing, and I heard some bad stories about the guy in the media the last few years since I've been over there. But exactly. I agree, at the time, he was one hell of a cricketer. He could really, really hit a cricket ball. And one of the best slower balls in world cricket that there's ever been, I've got to say.
Yeah, absolutely. So what about you, mate? Who's your number 7? Is this your keeper?
Number 7's my keeper. Now, if we're doing honourable mentions, you've got to say Gilchrist. I had him in my World 11 team. I also had, this is left field, Adam Perori, the former black cap keeper from the 1990s, as an honourable mention that almost made the list. I've got great memories of him just smashing it, but it was more one-day cricket related, seeing him smash it.
Yeah, fair enough.
Then the man that's got the gloves. The man that has got the gloves. I can't see past him. I love the way he plays cricket. He's the embodiment of how cricket should be played. And he's the embodiment of how someone should attack the bowler. It is Brendan McCullum.
Ah, nice. So nice, yeah, I like that one as well. Hell of a player coming in at 7.
There's a possibility that I could have opened with him. I could have had McCullum to open. I thought he was a good opener. He tacked. But I'm in the balance of this team. He could bat wherever he wants. He's in charge. He's my captain.
Exactly. Right then. So I assume now 8, 9, 10, 11. Obviously, we're predominantly bowlers. Obviously, we might just bat a little bit more than not. But have you got one spinner and 3 seamers?
I've got one spinner, 3 seamers, and I feel I want to give you. I think we should go who the opening bowlers are.
Ooh.
So you've got to pick an opening bowler.
All right. No problem. Right, these would bat at 9 and 10.
Yep.
I'm not quite sure in what order. Glenn McGrath and Curtly Ambrose.
Interesting. Surprised McGrath made your favourite 11.
Mate, he always did. When again, early days, Glenn McGrath. I just loved him. Absolutely loved him. He was just a machine, wasn't he? I've never been someone blessed with pace. But I used to be able to put it pretty much in the same spot and nibble it around a little bit. I just remember doing my coaching course at Trent Bridge once, and everybody was giving their heroes as a bit of an icebreaker, and everyone was Botham or Atherton or whoever it might be, some Englishman. And then the one bloke in there that said somebody other than all those names. I think the only other overseas player maybe was Viv Richards as a favourite or someone like that.
Yeah.
But yeah, I popped up and just said Glenn McGrath. He was a stud. Yeah. Absolute stud of a bowler. But Curtly Ambrose, I probably watching as a spectacle. I loved watching him. But McGrath and Ambrose, score off that if you can.
He's the man. Now, my opening pair are quite similar, actually. Well, one of them. I've got Curtly Ambrose in there. Loved Ambrose. He was my brother's favourite cricketer of all time, Curtly Ambrose. But Ambrose to me was wonderful. His spells of bowling against England in the 90s were incredible. They were just destructive, absolutely destructive. And I've even got memories of him. I think I was about 4 or 5 years old watching Ambrose against Australia, and he got 5 for 1 or something ridiculous like that. He just absolutely blew them away. He was a wonderful talent. And then at the other end,
entertainer,
you're damn right. Then at the other end, I have gone for sheer pace, and it's because you're drawn to things in cricket. Like kids these days will be drawn to people that hit the ball far or bowl really fast. And I was the same. I was drawn to someone that could bowl really fast. And taking the new ball at the other end, I've got Shoaib Akhtar.
Yeah, I can see that. That's absolutely fine. That is, I mean, you can't argue with that one as well. There's no one else apart from maybe Brett Lee for a little period of time has bowled with so much heat as Shoaib Akhtar. So he's got to be in there, hasn't he? So I can understand that one, mate. Definitely.
Yeah, just hugely drawn to it. And I can remember watching him bowl against New Zealand. I can't remember what year it was, but it was incredible, mate. He was way too fast. He was bowling at 95, 96 mile an hour, swinging it. And poor old Stephen Fleming was picking up his stumps first ball, and then it was the next man, then it was the next man. It was just incredible.
I like the way you just had a little bit of a dig at one of my key middle order batsmen there.
I did. In fact, it was 2003. There you go. 2003, down in Wellington at the Basin Reserve.
Right, fine, cool. Who's your first change seamer then? And then we'll finish up with a spinner.
You're talking about what cricketers you had on your wall as a kid. Now I had this guy on the wall as a kid with a signed piece. My dad wrote off to him and he sent a signed picture and it said, "To Roberts," full name.
Yes. "Bowl
straight, work hard, Angus Fraser." I was.
Oh, you kidding? I love it.
Loved Angus Fraser. He was my number one bowler, and Cy Damwell was my number one batter as a kid. And I'd be in the back garden running in at a really, stupid angle and trying to bowl like Angus Fraser at the top of the skateboard that was pegged up against the washing line. I just absolutely loved him as a cricketer. He was a great player for England until he had a back injury and never quite reached the same heights again, but almost 200 test wickets, an average of 27, 5 wickets in an innings 13 times in test cricket, so you can see how destructive he was when he got that ball on a dime and got it on his day, but just loved him, favourite cricketer.
I've got no comments. As soon as you mentioned his name, mate, I smiled. He's one of them blokes, I would never have thought about him, but do you know what, it's a really, really good shout. He just looked so just downtrodden and frustrated and, this is so difficult.
Yeah.
He just looked so miserable, didn't he? running up on that angled run up. And if you've not tried to do an Angus Fraser run up and delivery, he had such a kind of his own style of bowling, didn't he?
Yeah.
That you've got to try and kind of, mock him or whatever. Not mock him, but you know what I mean? Bowl like him. So yeah, I do like that one. And again, all those summers of watching test matches on BBC or whatever when was growing up, he was just steaming in, wasn't he? He's steaming in at a very steady pace. It did always look like he was running up a massively steep hill. But yeah, he was a stud. And it was cool, wasn't it, as well, because Matthew Hoggard kind of replaced him, didn't it, almost seamlessly. And it was just like the one swinger handed off to the next. So, yeah, that's an awesome shout. And this is what this team's about. It's about the favourite players, isn't it? The ones that give us the smiles and the good memories. So, for me, I'm going similar in a way. I'm going for a swinger, but I'm going Wasim Akram.
Ooh, beautiful.
Pakistan. He sits in at number 8 as well. So I mean, what a batting lineup that is with him coming at number 8. You don't need to say much about him. Just the man was just a dream. When that ball's reverse swinging after McGrath and Ambrose have had a nice spell. I'm bringing Akram on a little bit later in the innings to just hoop it round corners and break some toes.
He was an incredible player. I think in 1992, I can remember watching him in-swinging Yorker to Graham Hick, almost killing Graham Hick's feet in the process. It was an incredible player. The thing is, if it's a World 11 or if it's a favourite 11, so many of these guys are interchangeable. Like, you could have had Wacker Eunice instead of him.
Yeah, exactly.
There's just an absolute abundance of talent from the last, for me, call it 28 years of watching Test cricket. Just some incredible players that we could have picked, and I think the bowling lineups are pretty damn good. I think your bowling lineup definitely beats my bowling lineup in terms of seamers so far. But I'm quite interested to see who you've got as a spinner.
Yeah, I mean, before I hit my spinner, I just want to give a hat tip to Alan Donald, Courtney Walsh, Jimmy Anderson and Chaminda Vaas. That would make my second 11, my reserves, if you like. So, yeah, spin. Again, same reason, really, as somebody I spoke about earlier. I was lucky enough to be, go and watch this guy toil and bowl in his own country, and that's Muralitharan. Mataya, what a bowler. What an absolute bowler. Met him on the eve of a first test as well in Sri Lanka as well, and he took the piss out of my Forest shirt. So, there is one black mark against his name, but he's a nice fella, he seemed like. So, absolutely loved him. I mean, what was it, 5? Well, I don't even know how many wickets he got in the end. It was ridiculous, wasn't it? About 5,000, wasn't it?
800
yeah.
Tests, 534 one day, 1,374 first class wickets.
It was his mad eyes as well. He just looked like he was enjoying being there.
Yeah, he did.
It wasn't a chore. The guy wanted to play cricket until he was needing to wheel him onto the field, wasn't it? So he just loved the game. You could tell he loved the game, and he just enjoyed it. And he was a bloody hopeless batsman at number 11 as well. So you've got to have one absolute non-batsman in your 11, I reckon, just to have some entertainment. I mean, there's a couple of knocks that I do remember. I can't remember who it was against, but when he'd come in late on and just have a swing, it felt like he edged everything, but none of it went to hand. Boundaries left, right, and centre, but just the worst, the worst batsman by a mile in my 11. But what a great bloke to have in your team.
Yeah, I think he got 8 or 9 wickets when Sri Lanka beat England at Trent Bridge, and I can't remember the year, but I was there that day. Interesting fact, Rich. Murali,
yes.
Who was his 100th Test match victim?
100th? God, it feels like so long ago. Geez, you know how bad I was at these questions.
I'm just going to drop a country in there. It's New Zealand.
Stephen Fleming?
Yep.
I'm not changing it. Stephen Fleming's staying in there. Sachin Tendulkar, just sit down on the bench. Fleming's up ahead of you. Sorry, son.
Now, for my spinner, I thought about a couple of guys. Accreditation needs to go to probably Phil Tufnell. He was in there
Peter
as
Such.
A potential.
Peter Such.
Peter Such. One player that isn't in there? Ian Salisbury. I'm still so annoyed he got picked for the 96 Ashes team. He's useless.
So I'm sure they don't listen, but if they do, sorry.
Sorry, not sorry. Like, seriously, just because you bowled leg spin. And that is a perfect segue to go for who bowled leg spin so well in the 96 Ashes series? Shane Warne. I didn't want to pick Shane Warne, but when I sit down and I really think about it, every time he bowled, I watched. I didn't talk, I didn't drink my beer, I watched him bowl, because there's something special about watching someone with genuine skill. We spoke about Jimmy Anderson's skill, and just, it's skill. It's not raw pace. it's the ability to just do something at the absolute pinnacle of what that is. And Shane Warne epitomised that. He made leg spin an absolute wonderful thing to watch in an art. And I bowled leg spin for years in the back garden, trying to be Shane Warne, trying to bowl onto the cracks and get it to nick away into the garden shed. And the garden shed was the wicket keeper, so if you edged to the shed, you were out. And I was trying to be Shane Warne.
Love it. Yeah, I mean, just incredible talent, isn't he? So, yeah, again, can't argue with that one. He was a character. I certainly didn't dislike the guy. I used to like to dislike him sometimes. But yeah, he was a likeable fellow, wasn't he? My kind of backup spinner in my squad was Dan Vettori, so a third Kiwi gets a hat tip. But I just loved him. He had glasses, left arm, just something about him. He was cool.
No, that's a very, very good choice. Now, in terms of backup players that I kind of had for my squad, so I had Tendulkar marginally missing out. I had Gilchrist marginally missing out. I had Waki Yunis marginally missing out as well. Very hard to get everyone in. Kumar Sangakkara was on my initial list. Inzamam ul Haq was on the list at some point. I tell you one player that wasn't on the list, or nowhere near the list. He's that far away from the list, Rich. He can't even see the list.
Mm-hmm.
Sourav Ganguly.
Oh, right, okay. Not a fan.
Not a fan of Sourav Ganguly. Rahul Dravid, he was on my initial list, though. Rahul Dravid was there, but Sourav Ganguly, absolutely not. Could not stand him. I don't even enjoy listening to him as a commentator.
He's a little bit like sandpaper, isn't he?
He is. He definitely is. Who else was near and far from your team?
Well, I mean, one of my favourite cricketers of all time is Chris Reed. Just absolutely love the guy. I love everything he did for Nottinghamshire. He was massively underused, disrespected, treated shockingly shabbily, whatever you want, by Vaughan and all the rest of him. Should have played more games for England. Best wicketkeeper I've ever seen. I'd love to have him in the team. I've kind of mentioned others. Atherton was a real close one. Nasser, I loved how gritty he was. Yeah. Hooper, I just used to love Hooper's non-run-up when he was drifting his little off-spinners in.
Yes.
As well. Loved that. Ramnaresh Sarwan, I remember seeing him get pinned on the head. He was wearing on the helmet, sorry, in was it 2003 World Cup in South Africa against, who was it against? Oh, it might have been Sri Lanka. And he was stretchered off the field at Cape Town. He came back on after about 2 or 3 wickets later with a floppy hat on. So he was just, so that's kudos for me, that one is. So there's just so many, isn't there? I mean, I mean, where do you start? There's so many. Weirdly, I really used to like watching Andy Caddick. Second innings, Andy Caddick.
Oh, he's great.
Used to love him. Incredible. Or just on a roll, Andy Caddick. Used to love it. Darren Gough, weirdly. Yep. I don't know what it was. It was just some great player. That was my kind of bowling attack growing up, was him and Caddick over the bowling. Don't know what it is about Gough. Just never kind of warmed to him massively. Don't know. Enjoyed him, but
You know one guy that kind of made my initial list. It was quite a big list. England bowler, left armour, Alan Mullally.
Alan Mullally.
He was in I made about 10 seam bowlers that were kind of like, oh yeah, I loved him. Oh yeah, I loved him. Cool. Alan Mullally. Loved the way he played the game.
He's another one, when I was talking about Murali, nothing better than watching Mullally come in trying to swish the ball and smash the ball to all parts and getting thick edges and all sorts, get himself a little 10, 15, 20 or whatever. But it was entertainment. Yep. Late order smashing. There's nothing better in world cricket. Well, maybe there is. Maybe Sachin Tendulkar or Lara in full flow. But for me, give me a 10 or 11 batsman that looks bloody hopeless trying to smash the ball to all parts, and it's brilliant.
Exactly. You know one guy who I always used to try and emulate in the garden as well?
No.
Devon Malcolm with the big fall away bowling delivery, fell away.
Yes.
And I always tried to get the delivery. So he got 9 for against South Africa back in 94 maybe, 96 maybe, in 98, somewhere in the 90s anyway. And he bowled one, falling away, into the batsman's pads, onto the stumps everywhere. I tried for years to bowl that delivery in the back garden, hit my brother on the legs and it go into the stumps, and it just never happened.
Never happened. We keep saying this, we've probably go on all day, and we probably need to not go on all day. But just one more bowler I've probably got to mention as well, because someone that influenced what I even do to this day is Ian Bishop. He's another one. Just great, unheralded, kind of overshadowed by bowling in the team with Courtney Walsh and Curtly Ambrose. Yeah. But he was brilliant as well. And what he used to do a lot, he'd change his point of delivery. He would be bowling a lovely line, running through the crease at the same point, and then he'd just jump wide every so often and angle one in. Yeah. And I've happily kind of done that over the years as well. So that's someone that influenced me personally. So that's another one. But yeah, I think we've got a couple of good sides out there. We've got 3 overlaps. We've got Laura, Jai Woodner, and Curtly Ambrose. But apart from that, they could play off against each other. We might just a couple of subs, and that wouldn't be a bad game of cricket.
That would be a damn good game of cricket. So, guys, what we want you to do, we want you to comment below and let us know not who your world 11 is, but who your favourite 11 is. And one thing that's great, when I look at the stats on YouTube and stuff of who's listening to this, there's a wide range of ages, so we should get people from the 70s and 80s and 90s, and guys who have just watched cricket for the last 10 years. So really, really interested to see who you guys think would be in your all-time favourite 11, and then we'll do some collation of it, and we can put it out there. One thing I think that we need to discuss on another podcast, Rich, it's actually who our least favourite 11 is. Who are the cricketers that really grind your gears? Because there's been a few that's kind of come up here, and I've kind of gone off on a bit of a tangent. And you know what? I think we could come up with an 11 each on the guys that we just absolutely hated.
Do you know who I'm going to give the number 4 role that he was batting in?
Yeah.
I could do. I'm going to put one in already. I'm typing it in now, Rob, as we speak.
Go on,
Kevin Peterson. There you go. Number 4, that's locked in. There you go. I've made a start.
Oh, brilliant. Oh, brilliant. Well, Rich, that's been a hell of a good time. And there's nothing better as a cricket fan when you do just get time and you get to talk about all the people that you absolutely loved watching playing cricket and the memories from playing cricket.
Yeah. I'm just going to apologise now. Look, I'm just looking at both teams and there's a glaring omission, really, not from a player but from a nation, and that's India.
Well,
I think we could be in trouble, Rob.
India, and I've said there's a lot of players that, Tendulkar was in my world 11, didn't make my favourite 11. The other one that potentially might have got in there would have been Anil Kumble. I quite like Kumble, but I went with Shane Warne over Kumble.
Just saying. I think we're in trouble.
I think we're in trouble.
I joke. There's so many good players, but yeah, I think these teams are class. I don't think anyone can argue too much about it. But yeah, let's hear some. Let's see how bad we were.
Yeah, no, that's great, Rich. Thank you very much for your time, friend. I can't wait for the 5th Test match. That's right around the corner. Exciting times. Anything else from yourself?
No. Roll on the 5th Test match. I can't wait to see Keaton Jennings have another knock.
Beautiful stuff. I hope he's not there. Thank you so much for listening, guys.